Welcome, everybody. My name is Michael Metz, and I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Ryan Montano. And for those of you who don't know who Ryan is, he is a national recording artist, quite a bit of airplay, and I suggest you look him up on the internet. You can go to ryanmontano.com, or he has works on Spotify, Apple Play. Where else, Ryan? Where else can we get your music?
Anywhere and everywhere that you consume digital music,
Okay.
and you can find my music there. It's all
Okay.
there.
Perfect. So this is the first time we've met, and I will tell you that it is an honor to meet you. I in my email that I sent you, my wife is the one who actually listened to you at the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta this year, and she said, "No, you have to listen to this guy." And I was like, "Well, okay, all right." And I was actually pleasantly surprised. I will tell you that I enjoy your music quite a bit. I enjoy listening to it, and your arrangements and stuff are absolutely amazing. So
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Yeah,
so,
I mean, doing our best.
well, now you're from Albuquerque, specifically from the Tejeras area,
Yeah.
and you grew up there, and you went to Manzano High School. So what year did you graduate from Manzano?
I graduated in 2005, and then from
2005.
there, I went to the University of New Mexico, and I actually didn't major in music. I majored in journalism. I double majored in broadcast journalism and psychology. And that's kind of where that's where I first started, taught myself like computer animation and video editing and, how to shoot a camera and all that good stuff. And I'm glad I had that training because, it was hard for me in the Albuquerque market to exclusively make a good living playing trumpet. I was making a living, but, I wasn't quite as established as I am now. And so what I was I was working video jobs. I was the production manager at Telemundo making Spanish language commercials. And it was funny because my boss was really cool and she was real supportive of my dream. And so I would work, do the 9 to 5 thing. After that, I would go to the gym, which was about a 30-minute jog from my work to my gym. So I would jog from there, go work, get the jog, do the workout, do some weights, come back to my office at Telemundo, and I would record all night. And that's where I was recording Honey Girl, I Like That, all the songs that went on to Billboard. It was doing it after work hours. And I was paying through it, through the 9 to 5 until I was able to I was able to make the transition into playing my trumpet full time in January of 2017. And I've been going on 5 years strong, and I work at it every day.
Nice. So you graduated from UNM what year?
2010. I did 5 years at UNM. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nice. Were you involved with the music program there, or was it specifically because of your major you were doing the videoing and stuff like that?
I was a little bit, but then kind of, as more for a few years, like I did the marching band and I did the jazz band. But I felt that my career and my trajectory and my music would be better served as if I were to kind of take the reins myself and not necessarily go through an education regimen.
You had said that you've done more than just being a trumpet player, even though that is your dream and that's what you're doing now. You've been an actor, you've been a model, you're a video creator, you're a videographer. You spent time behind the camera at Telemundo. Didn't you do some? I mean, you've done a whole lot of things. I mean, that's a pretty impressive resume, if you ask me.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Nice. So your first album was titled Something Happened Tuesday, and that was released when? 2013?
2013.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
and since you said that it was after you finished college and you were working full time and you recorded all of that. So you said you recorded all of that at night when you were working. You were able to do all of that on your own.
So that Something Happened Tuesday album was a combination of recording at Telemundo and recording at my home studio and recording in studios in Santa Fe, studios in Albuquerque. I even had a lot of those songs tracked by a rhythm section in Las Vegas, Nevada, with a friend and a mentor, musical mentor, Jerry Lopez, and his band. And you know, I connected, the drummer in my band at that time was good friends with Jerry, and he's like, hey, Ryan's putting together his album, and we're, you know, he's looking for some help with some of the tracks. Can you, you know, track some of the stuff? And so, yeah, I tracked, I think 2 of those songs that were tracked out in Vegas. The others were tracked here in Albuquerque and at Telemundo and at my studio, and then at Rema Records. At the time, it's no longer there, but yeah, it was, that was a long process. And there were a lot of songs that actually didn't make that album. That album has, I think, like 7 songs on it, and 2 of them are just like little trumpet by itself. So it's like 5 songs. It's not a terribly long album.
You after you finished your first album, you released, like, every year you released a single, and that was for like 6 years, right? 7 years. That's so when you do these things, this is something that I take it you're not signed with a label. So all of this is self-produced, self-done, self-promoted. That's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I appreciate you, you know, taking the time to notice that discography and everything. I mean, that's exactly what I did after 2013. I released my first album, and then I got connected with a producer. I was doing a concert here in Albuquerque, and the promoter, Rod Kyle, shout out to Rod Kyle, he connected me with a producer out of Denver. His name is Darren Ron, and you know, Darren has all the stats, all the Grammys, all the accolades. He's produced Dave Koz and Wayman Tisdale, and you know, the top of the top. And I was really lucky and fortunate that he agreed to produce me and take me on as a client. And so when I approached him, the goal was, you know, he's like, well, Ryan, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'd like to create a song that my local radio station would play. At the time, the jazz station, they wouldn't play my first album. They said it's not commercial enough. And so I approached Darren. I was like, well, I said, I'd really like to try and get some airplay on my local radio station. That was the goal. That was the singular goal. And he was like, okay. And so we came up with this song together called I'd Like That Darren produced and we co-wrote. And as we finished the song, he goes, you know what, Ryan, he goes, I have some radio promoters that I think I can connect you with, that I think this song could do really well on the national level. And he connected me with the radio promoter, and I didn't know anything about it. You know, I paid the radio promoter, and we sent out, you know, the single to all the radio stations across the country. And then after a couple weeks, I started getting phone calls from my radio promoter being like, yo, Ryan, this song's starting to take off. It looks like it might get on this music chart they call Billboard. And I was like, what, really?
Yeah.
Goes, yeah, like people are really liking it. And then it got picked up by Sirius XM satellite radio watercolors. I know I'm very lucky. And so, but yeah, that's how kind of that whole process came. And so for me, that business model of doing one single a year became became successful for me. That's how I, you know, was able to put a roof over my head and food in my belly.
Yeah.
And so I just kept doing that every year, just as a single. And then this past year, I had about 6 singles that, you know, were not part of an album. Plus I think 7 more songs that I had been recording over the years. I mean, there's a bunch of songs that I recorded, but they didn't make the cut for my most recent album, Truth Journey.
Thank you for the segue, because I was just getting ready to mention your new album, Truth Journey, which was released earlier in 2021. I think it's shown a lot of maturity in your playing and your recording. And so how is this album doing compared to your first album? Is it, and your singles? I mean, I know a lot of your singles are on this album, but how is this album doing now?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you really, you know, taking the time to like do your homework with my music. It's really flattering, like all the things that you mentioned about the maturity and just being a better album than my first. I mean, obviously that would be the goal, but I appreciate you noticing that, because, you know, as you work on your craft, like you get better at it, you know, you get better at producing, you get better at hearing things, you get better at the mixing process, you get better at, you know, writing songs. And it's like, okay, like I can do a song that goes verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and bridge, and, you know, like that has that formula, but that's been done a million times. And that's what I'm proud about. You know, there are songs on that album that have elements of that, but there are also songs that are a lot different. And in terms of, you know, how it's doing, I think it's almost up to 2 million streams on Spotify, which is
really, that's quite a bit.
It's incredible. Like, you know, all my people talk about, you know, people come up to me a lot and they're like, man, Ryan, you're doing it. And I have to be careful with that, because I don't want to be like, yeah, I am doing it. And then I don't think I'm ever the person to kind of really rest on laurels. But at the same time, I do want to appreciate, I know that what I've earned is rare. And so I do want to keep that momentum going. But I'm really proud of that album. It's funny because over the years I've gotten various connections with contemporary jazz artists. So when that album was finished, I sent it to, off the top of my head, I sent it to a bunch of people, but I specifically sent it to Jeff Lorber, Mindy Abair, Huge Groove because he was on it, Rick Braun, and then Kenny G. I've met all of them, and I've kept in contact with them, and so I sent it to all of those people, and because I was really proud of that album, and I feel that it represents my music and what I'm doing now. It represents it well,
Right.
and the music I'm already working on album number 3 and getting ready to release a new single, and it's kind of hard now because I felt with that album Truth Journey, I said the music the way I needed to say it, and it accomplished what I needed it to do it creatively. And now with this new album that I'm working on, I'd say I have about 6 songs done, and I'm working on, I don't know, probably another dozen. And it's hard though, because it's like, well, what am I trying to say now? I can do another album like I did with Truth Journey, but that's already been done. And so with these songs now, I'm being a lot more what's the word to describe? I would say creative and ambitious with the songwriting, with the forms of the song, like the textures and whatnot. And I hope it doesn't take another 8 years to get it released. But like at the end of the day.
But you know what? If that's what it takes, sometimes that's what it takes. It's one of the things I've learned over the years as a fellow trumpet player is if you rush the process, then it's going to feel and it's going to sound rushed. And I've been there. I've done that. I understand that. And so if it takes another 8 years, okay, fine. Just release a single every year.
Yeah,
it works.
Yeah, and that's the business model. Like the business model has been working great. So like the single thing every year is a single. I'd like to, if I can, get it out to 2 singles a year, depending on the timing. But and I have said this before, and it may sound a little hippie-ish or ethereal or whatever, but the songs that I write, I don't know if I can even call it that I write those songs, because to me they're creations that want to manifest themselves. Because I don't know how much songwriting you've done, but I've talked to a lot of songwriters. We'll be sitting there writing a song, and then all of a sudden this idea just comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh, and it hits you in your gut, in your heart, in your soul. And to me, it's like, that's not just me in my mind being like, oh, I thought of that. It's like, I feel like these are ideas or creations that are choosing me to manifest themselves. And so, some people are really good at cranking out songs, and, they can crank out a couple songs a day. For me, if I can crank out a good song in a couple months, like that's a success. You know what I mean?
Well, and some people don't realize how hard the process is. Some people think that, oh yeah, you can just sit down and write a song or 2 a day. But when you start dealing with, okay, you start with an idea, and then you move the idea, and then you twist the idea, and then you have to think about, how do I get that idea down on in a musical way? How do I create that idea? This is not a simple process. And if you think it's a simple process, then that's where you're going to get in trouble. But in the style that you write and the style that you produce for yourself, that's a different story. And it requires a lot of thought, and it requires a big idea to manifest itself and to work forward through it. And trust me, I understand your ideas, and I understand what you're doing. And I know that it's not easy, and I congratulate you on that, because of the stuff that you create. Some of the music, I will tell you that, like I was trying to come up, what would be my 3 favorite songs out of all of the stuff that you've recorded. And you're going to laugh, because I really like, the first song I really like is the one called Penny Thoughts. Hey. Most people, it's not soulfully, right? It's not your big single, which I do like, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I do like that one. But it's different. It's textured different. And then the other one that I really like was the one that you wrote with Huge.
Burning Boats.
Burning Boats. Who was it that you co-wrote that with? Who was the artist?
Huge Groove was the guest
That
on
Huge
it.
Groove. Okay.
I wrote and produced that, but Huge was the guest on it for sure.
That was, I really dig that one. I will tell you, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's the saxophone or it's the horn section that you wrote behind it. I really, really like that. I wanted to compliment you on that, because out of all the songs that I have listened to, and that one was released as a single like 3-4 years ago, right?
2017. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can
So
I show you
4
a
years
story
ago.
about that song?
Yeah, sure, please.
And I think part of the reason why you might be resonating with that song so much is because there's a lot of emotion tied to that song. The reason I called it Burning Boats is because, so have you heard that story of when Cortez was settling in the New World? And what he did is he told his men when they landed, I want to say was it the Gulf of Mexico? I might be wrong about that exact location, but he said, he goes, we're going to conquer this land or we're going to die trying. And
Right.
he set fire to his ships and he
Yes.
burned all the ships. So he burned
Yes.
his boats. And for me, I was working at the University of New Mexico doing documentary type filmmaking, and I was miserable. And not because of the job itself, because it was a great job, great money, great benefits. The people I worked with were really great. Had time, like I had all the perks of a traditional job, you know what I mean? And
Right.
I had an office, everything was great, but I would just come home and I would have these depressive episodes where I was crying and I was miserable and I couldn't figure it out. And I just had to really sit with that feeling for a couple of years and be like, okay, it's because I'm not waking up every morning and playing trumpet. And at that time, I had already had a few singles on Billboard and I was making decent money, but not quite enough to transition from, UNM money to, living the way I am. And so I just had to make a decision. And that decision was, okay, if what my soul and what my heart is telling me is that I want to play the trumpet every day.
I think, like I said, I don't know what it is about it. And it's, I don't know whether it's the groove. I don't know whether it's the horn section. I don't know what it is, but that one just absolutely floored me when I heard it. So we've talked about a few things. So who's in your band now? I know Steve Figueroa has played with you since like forever, but who else is playing in your band on a regular basis? Throw some names at me.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the crew that I have now. And my band is a little different than what I've done in years past. So like I have the rhythm section. So that's Arnaldo Acosta on drums, Steve Figueroa on keys, Justin Bransford on bass. And lately I've been using TJ Emmerich on guitar. And from a rhythm, all of those players, it's kind of hard to find the right players for my group because there's so many different styles. But at the end of the day, you need a straight ahead jazz foundation, or at least a strong command of that language, and that's all relative, but a strong command of the straight ahead jazz language to play the music that I want to portray to the public in its authenticity, because sometimes I've had some players that are good in certain styles, but not others. And then when I'll do a Latin jazz song, I'll do one of my original songs, I'll do a vocal song, I'll do a burnin' bebop song, I'll do a jazz ballad like Misty, or in a sentimental mood. Like there's just such a diversity of styles that I need the right players. And so when your wife saw us perform at the Balloon Fiesta, we had also had vocalists, and the whole genesis of bringing vocalists into my group was Roy Hargrove. He put out the album Distractions from his RH Factor, and on there's a song on there called Hold On, and it's one of my all-time favorite songs. And what I've often done in the past is I've done vocal songs instrumentally. So the person singing, I would just play the melody on trumpet, and I was going to do that with Hold On. And then I thought, just on a whim, I was like, I'm going to call my friend Andrew and my friend Rebecca, and we're just going to sing it and just see where it goes. And it was just that little seed that came from Roy Hargrove, his music, that I started incorporating singers into my band full time. And now I'm writing songs. Like I'm working on a song right now. It's called Honest, and it's actually going to be featuring Rebecca and Andrew. And I'm singing third harmonies on my shows. Like, I have no delusions about, myself as a vocalist. Like I can hear the pitch and I can sing it, but, I'm not Chet Baker, or I'm not, Ella Fitzgerald or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, so I let them do, but it's nice to sing the third harmony behind them because they're such amazing vocalists. And as long as I, fall into place, then I don't, then I can fit within the standard that they set. But I love singing that third harmony. Like a lot of contemporary jazz presentations will just be piano, bass, drums, guitar, and then the instrumentalist in front. And they do an R&B rooted presentation. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's, some people do that really, really well, and audiences respond. Someone like Boney James, they really respond to that. I think the reason why we're getting asked to headline major jazz festivals and come back for repeat performances is because our presentation, it's like, yeah, we have that. We have the instrumental, I can go up there and I can play my songs and I can play my ballad, but then we also hit them with some Latin jazz, and then we hit them with the straight ahead jazz tune, and then I hit them with the jazz ballad. Oh, and they got vocals, and they're doing 3-part harmonies, and the dude's singing. Like, to me, how you engage an audience and how you get them to respond to your music is important. I mean, obviously it's important, but it's paramount if you're going to be, headlining, if you're going to be out there on a national stage and saying like, yo, like, my name is Ryan Montano, I'm from Albuquerque, this is my band. And I'm proud of that because, we're all in the same, we're all looking at that big picture thing. Like when we started performing with vocalists, and we had these shows coming up, the jazz festivals and the Spanish Harlems and all that stuff. We all I sat everybody down and I was like, listen, I want to convey to you guys the opportunity that we have. And I want to make sure that everybody knows, like, we are a band from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we are on the national spotlight. So we have an opportunity to show not only what we can do, but there's a standard that these headliners have. Like when I was playing at the Seabreeze Jazz Festival, and I was singing David Sanborn and his band and Mindy Abair and all these people, it's like there's a standard that they bring. And it's like, if we're gonna call ourselves headliners and we're gonna be taking headlining performances, then not only does it need to be up to that standard, but I think the big picture is that we should be shooting for that standard +1. And it was cool because everybody got on board with that. And so when we show up to rehearsal, we're doing cool stuff. Like we have a motto in our band. It's called #CSO, or cool shit only. Like we're not messing around with stuff that's like, oh yeah, that's good. It's like, no, only the cool stuff. That's only the cool stuff. And so I'm really proud of how, because it's rare. I'm really proud of how we all were able to get on the same page and do it with enthusiasm and with honesty. So I'm proud of what we're doing.
Well, it also shows that you don't pigeonhole yourself. That's the big thing, because you know what? When you're an audience member, and as a musician myself, when I'm in the audience, I want to be entertained. I don't want to hear the same thing over and over again. I want to be entertained. And that's something that you do differently when you go, like, I mean, I've played at my fair share of jazz festivals, and I hate to be up there. I hate to be in the audience where I'm listening to someone and someone's just playing for themselves. No, that's not the way it works. You want to play for your audience. I mean, I've played at the Texas Jazz Festival. I've played in festivals in Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. I played up in Utah. And you have to cater to your audience. You want to entertain your audience. And it seems like that's what you do. Now you don't just play this kind of music. I mean, I know you just did a big band jazz thing last week at the African American Museum, right? On stage, you guys did a big band thing. You do small jazz, you do big jazz, you do just about everything. And I think that shows the maturity, and it shows the level of a musician that you are. And I compliment you on that. That's awesome. So here's a question. I'm a gear guy. Always have been. So what kind of trumpet mouthpiece are you playing on? What kind of trumpet are you playing on? What do you play?
So the mouthpiece that I've been playing, and I've been playing this mouthpiece for, I don't know, like 20 years, is a 3C.
Okay.
3C. That's it.
A Bach 3C? Just a basic Bach 3C? Okay.
Basic Bach 3C. It does in college I experimented a little bit with in marching band a Marcinkiewicz, was it the Roger Ingram Marcinkiewicz model? Because it has a much more shallow cup, and it makes the upper register work way easier relative to the 3C. But like the tone is just terrible. Like to me, the tone of the trumpet, I feel, is one of my more unique attributes of what I bring to the trumpet. And so with that mouthpiece, it was just like every time I play anything below a middle C, it was just like,
Oh yeah, because it's teeny tiny.
pinched, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just pretty much been sticking with the 3C, and I've been, to me, I just love the sound throughout the entire range.
Mm-hmm.
The upper register is tough, but it's funny. My range is never, it's like a G above high C, right? That's as high as I'll pretty much ever need to go. Every once in a while I can crank out a double C, but I'm not really a high note person. And
You don't have
sometimes
to be.
it'll come out and I'll be like, wow, how did that come out? And I'll try to replicate it, and other times it won't. But even like my dexterity up in that, you know what I mean? It's like I can hit the notes and I can hit them strong, but my ability to move around in them that's something that needs work for sure. And that's actually something that I'm working on getting better at, not just hitting a high note, but how do you come out of the high note? And then like, how do you continue your musical phrases? Not just like, oh, I just hit a high G, or I just hit a double C. Like, it's like, yeah, that's cool in trumpet world, but like most people don't care about that.
No.
So,
so what about trumpet wise? What about trumpet? What do you play on a trumpet? What trumpet do you play on?
So right now I'm playing on a 6310Z, a Yamaha, and I've been playing on that. Yeah, I've been playing on that. I've been playing on that since 2000. I think I got it Christmas 2007.
So let's wrap this up. I want to know, so what's up and coming for you? You've mentioned some jazz festivals and stuff coming up. Any performances locally on the horizons? Any national performances on the horizon? What's coming up?
So kind of some cool projects on which I'm working now. So I'm going to be, the Hispano Chamber of Commerce actually hired myself and my buddy Andrew Cooper, who sings in my band. They asked us to put together the show it's called La Noche Encantada. It's pretty much the biggest, dance event of the year in Albuquerque. And they asked Andrew Cooper and I to put the show together, and they gave us the biggest budget I've ever worked with for a show. And we're putting together my band, and we have choreographers, and we have break dancers, and we have props, and we have costumes. The theme is space funk. And so I'm writing the arrangements for the band for, like, we're doing songs like Shining Star and Justin Timberlake's Spaceship Coupe, and Change the World, Eric Clapton, like anything that kind of has like a space theme to it. You know what I mean? And
when is that?
That is going to be February 12th. And so we're getting excited for that. And then I actually just got this news the other day. A producer in contemporary jazz, his name is Adam Hawley. He's producing the single for, her name is Lisa Adeo. And she had like the #1 Billboard song last year, whatnot. Anyways, they're producing a new single, and he asked if I would be featured on that, and that's coming out in January. So I'm really excited for that. When I heard the song, it was really cool, and Lisa's a talented pianist, and Adam, he's one of arguably the top producer in the genre. And the fact that, he asked me to be a part of that, I know the song's going to do well, and it's going to be heard a lot. And I'm actually recording that when we get off of this Zoom meeting. I'm going to continue recording that song. But I'm just like, I'm giving that 100% of my creative abilities, because I know it's going to get heard a lot. And I'm really excited for that one. So that, and then of course, we're going to be back at the Myrtle Beach Jazz Festival in October, potentially working on something in South Carolina. Again, we're potentially talking about blues, House of Blues in South Carolina, about doing a show there, and just working on, we might do Nashville, we might do Jazz in the Park in Alabama. I mean, we'll see. Like, there's stuff in the works. If it comes through, great. If it doesn't, that's cool too. But I'm just like, it's cool. Like, cool stuff is happening, and I think the reason the cool stuff comes in is because I've been a student of the craft, and I've worked hard, and I've sacrificed. And I think, whether you want to call it God, or whether you want to call it, luck, or whatever it is, I think if you're honest with your craft and you do right by it every day, it'll take care of you. And I'm living proof of that. The dedication I put into it has allowed me to, like I said, do trumpet, like, and do it, like I live good, and I'm happy, and opportunities come through, and they're cool. And I hope that always happens.
So do I, and for your sake and for our sake as audience members, I do too. Well, listen, I want to thank you very much for your time. I want to thank you for your honesty, and you keep doing what you're doing. And We will, for those of you, for those of us out there who are listening to your music, keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate it. And thank you very, very much for this time. And thank you all for watching.